You're listening to I Love It When, and I'm your host, Mo. I'm a speaker, coach, and connector. You're in the right place if you're looking for some inspiration and you're ready to truly embrace who you are. My intention with this podcast is to help you see that you are so much more powerful than you realize. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of I Love It When. This episode is the continuation of my conversation with Royce Wilson. And so I just wanted to remind you that Royce is a seasoned wonder guide with experience spanning over 30 years, dedicated to coaching, teaching, training, and empowering individuals on their path to the realization of their potential. Royce's deep-rooted passion for adventure, coupled with his avid mountaineering pursuits, reflects his belief in the transformative power of wonder. For him, wonder is the catalyst of progress, the magic that fuels the next step. Residing with his family near the mountains of Monroe, Washington, he continues to adventure while guiding others to embrace wonder, embarking on their own extraordinary journeys of personal growth. I highly recommend that you reach out to Royce after the rest of this episode and connect with him around coaching, speaking, working with a community group, perhaps. If you feel led and drawn by his energy and what he talks about, I can guarantee you that having him as a part of your life is going to do nothing but add to your life in beautiful, magical ways. So thank you so much for listening. And here's the rest of my conversation with Royce. I think so much of what you're talking about too reminds me of different people that I've studied where they're now looking at like, how do you connect the left and right hemispheres more often so that you can get some of that. And I often, an example that I give people when I'm talking about being efficient, because you would think that this way of being in the middle of the water without touching the ground, knowing anything what's around you, you would think it's not very efficient. But actually, what if you could get to the same goal in 3 steps instead of 10? Absolutely. And what if those other steps are not actually taken by you?
Yeah.
And this is what it reminds me of, because when you move with the energy that's around you and with what we can't see, and the energy that you talk about that wants to help you, that wants to be a part of this, that's, I think, the part that can kind of scare people almost if they're not really aware of what that is or if never experienced it before.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, let's chat on that, because I think if you want to, like, this is kind of opens into, like, I think, what is intuition, and how do we, so let's just talk this brain stuff. And again, I'm not a brain scientist, but I'm reading people who have got some really well-written reviews on this stuff and understanding how, and this is not even in mainstream yet. It's just barely starting to trickle into the mainstream.
Oh yeah. I'm literally looking at this book over on the side that I'm reading right now, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Joe Dispenza. And it's all about the brain science. Yeah.
Right. It's fascinating. And so there's this part, there's so much I want to say, but let me just say this, the part on the right. So we've been talking about pre-conscious, nonverbal, relational. This part of our right brain, the more powerful part, arguably. Again, I want to just make sure we're all about whole brain, not left or right. But like you said, I thought you said it so beautiful and articulate. Is like, how do we bring more of that subconscious, pre-conscious, deeper part of ourself into our everyday living? Well, number one, we stop worshiping, and I'm using this word again, worshiping certainty, worshiping our reason, realizing that reality requires reason, but also requires intuition.
Yes.
It's both. It's not one or the other. In a given situation, reason might be like if you're at a stop sign and a car is running the stop sign and you make a conscious decision to stop to keep yourself and them safe. Yeah, absolutely. You might not even need intuition there. But there'll be other situations where reason's not really helpful at all.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what we're discovering, and I think it's Dr. Shore and Siegel out of UCLA have some of the most cutting edge, just the science on this, and they did it in studying children's brains. This part of us in our right brain seeks to identify. Get this, these guys are not like theologians, they're brain scientists.
Yeah.
The right hemisphere seeks to connect and align with the higher mind. So pre-conscious is yearning. So it's the childlikeness of all of us. And if I can just quote Jesus, I geek out over this. This is the wonder in me. It's like, he said, hey y'all. No, hey y'all. It's in the Greek. No, I'm kidding. He's like, hey y'all, except you become like a little child. You're going to miss everything I'm talking about. So you don't approach Jesus like an adult. He'll accept anyone. But I'm saying if you want to really understand where Jesus is coming from, we have to like return to childlike wonder. And that's a part of like learn to be logical, learn to be reasonable, use
Mm-hmm.
reason, use rationale. I'm for all of that, but not at the expense of losing childlike wonder about reality as well. You can
Mm-hmm.
do both.
Yeah.
Stay open. You know how many things we don't know? Let's just take something for example. Here's a pin, everybody. Watch what happens. It dropped. You know what made it drop? Gravity. And you know how much we know about gravity in all of science? About this much. We know very little about gravity. Why it works, how it fundamentally works at a quantum level. We don't know anything about gravity
Yeah.
fundamentally. Like we know more about the weather than we do gravity. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
so all I'm saying is there's so many things we just don't know a lot about.
Mm-hmm.
We can have reason in the things we do know and childlike wonder in the things we don't.
Mm-hmm.
And that missing piece of, I'm curious, I wonder, what is that? Oh, let's go check that out. I don't know anything about it. It's a
Yeah.
little risky, but let's get a safe plan and let's go explore is fundamental to what it means to be a human. And the big point I was making is this right hemisphere need and desire is the childlikeness still in every adult. You are yearning. This is why we look for mentors and coaches. We're trying to
Mm-hmm.
connect with a mind that is manifesting or applying the things we feel drawn to and called to.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure that desire can be satiated just by another human. There may be another cosmic mind that we yearn to align with and we're feeling called to be a part of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you just made me realize too and think about how I think because of all the marketing and the conditioning and the way that we are just kind of overstimulated and assaulted with all of these messages,
Yes.
wonder for people to step into wonder, they've become fearful about it.
Mm.
And so because there's so many messages around, well, if you don't dress this way, you're not going to be liked. If you don't eat this way, you're not going to be liked. So people are so afraid of when actually if they stepped towards that, there would be more love, there would be more acceptance, there would be more, they'd find
Mm.
more rather than less.
You know,
Yeah.
Mo, thank you for saying what you just said because we have been brainwashed by a type of propaganda and it's just modern marketing.
Mm-hmm.
They learned in the 50s that if you tap into that psychological need of a human being, you're going to get more clicks. There weren't clicks then, but you're going to get more products sold.
Yeah.
And I don't want to overstate this, but the greed, and again, we all want to be effective, but
Yeah.
now arguably with multi-billion-dollar corporations, it's hard to attach the value, and I'm not putting that on any one person. I'm saying the
Mm-hmm.
corporation itself just
Mm-hmm.
ultimately gets driven by this greedy, like how much is enough? I
Mm-hmm.
remember, I think it was Rockefeller that was asked this, and it could be apocryphal, but the story is said that was asked back in the day, you know, how much is enough? To which he is said to have replied, just a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And we are being put at the whims of a psyop, as they call it in military. It's a psychological operation, and it's just called modern marketing,
Yeah.
where we are having targeted messages to the fearful part of who we are. We're not being
Mm-hmm.
reassured by marketing.
Mm-mm.
I think the only kind of modern marketing that's trying to reassure us is that you deserve our product. Right. So
Yes.
it's like, yeah, it'll play on that. It's like you are so deserving of what we're selling. And
Yes.
it's still, we're being inundated. That's keeping us uncertain all the time. And I was talking earlier, like 3,000 to 4,000 marketing impressions a day
So
across all
many.
media.
Yeah.
Think of like if I can crudely call that like a machine gun,
Mm-hmm.
just and if you were going to try and manage that, like you need to become
Mm-hmm.
Neo in the Matrix to like we've got to get really developed to know how
Yeah.
to not let those bullets infect the way that we see ourselves and our world. And I'm just saying it's a job. It's going to take some reinforcement. It's going to take some coaching. It's going to take community. And going back to that right brain, we need relationships that are hungry for the same things that we are hungry for. We don't have to all be at the same place, but we're wanting to go to the same place. And we're wanting to combat this marketing scarcity, fear-based mentality of if you don't have what I'm selling, just think of what your friends are going to say if you're not winning.
Yeah. Yes.
Just think of how inadequate you would be. That's the subtext
of
it. And another one that I've been noticing a lot, I just saw it this morning in my inbox, and it's like, it's going fast. There's only so many. It's like everything's like going quickly.
Limited supply, everything.
Everything's limited supply. I could almost bring my email up right now. It just cracks me up. I had 3 or 4 this morning. It's like, and they probably have 492,000 sitting in a warehouse somewhere, but they're going to tell you, Royce, this is the last. Oh yeah, it was one. It had my name, Royce. This is the very last day to get this deal, and I'm like, I don't want your stuff. I'm complete without it. Now, and again, I just think that we have to really think about the culture that's been created around scarcity. We are going to hear more messages of not being enough in a given day, 3,000 to 4,000.
Yeah.
Some version of you're not enough.
Yeah.
Where, Mo, and I'm just like, this is the preacher in me a bit, it's like, where are we going to have these conversations to where I'll say to you, Mo, you are enough. You are enough. You are beautiful. You are magnificent. You're talented. You're incredible. You're touching lives. Where do we have a place to where we're reinforced deeply about what is ultimately true about our value?
I mean, unless someone's actively looking for it, they're not getting it.
They're not.
And I think that's the thing that makes me so passionate about doing this work, and why I'm so excited about what you're doing too, because these stories about people stepping out of that arena and sharing something different as possible is what we need to see more and more.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And kind of just really quick jump to that right hemisphere. Our brain, our fundamental humanness yearns. And what's happening is, I think, and again, I can't say this beyond the shadow of a doubt, but what's happening is that with social media and our tech and our convenience, our prosperity has just isolated us more and more, because historically humans needed to interact with each other just to survive. Well, now we're so prosperous as human beings, at least in this country, we don't need to interact with people, right? We got people who go to what was it, Five Guys burgers and fries, and bring us burgers at home, and they do our grocery shopping for us, and Amazon delivers everything. I don't even need to go see or interact with my local store. I don't have to interact with anyone. What's happening is, I think this is tremendously inflating anxiety. It's tremendously at the source of depression. Not just that I'm not aligned with my purpose. That's one piece. But the simple fact that I don't have enough people in my life that I can trust and look to. And then somehow the right brain knows the difference between what's an online connection. For example, they've done some studies, just us, we're on screens. The brain knows the difference. I don't have a perfect number, but it's like, if you and I were in person, face to face, let's say that's 100% of what you get out of that. On a screen, it diminishes like down to 30%, 40% of your brain knows that I'm not actually in their presence. Now, it's better than nothing. It's better than nothing. It's just that all I'm trying to get at all this is that we need each other. And we need real connection. Real connection. I was just getting so beside myself. It's like, we need to feel a hand in our hand. And we don't have to agree about everything, but you know what we do agree on? I think you are amazing. And I want to serve in whatever way I can to see you fulfill your purpose in this reality and on this earth. And
you made me think of, when you're talking about that, is I'm even thinking about, a lot of the people that I'm working with now are healers, and they're in this realm where they're maybe studying energy healing or different types of healing outside of Western medicine. But something that I've recognized is that even people in the healing field, which then I would look to doctors and nurses and things like that as well, they're not all embodying what they're learning or thinking about. So I meet a lot of healers who don't work a lot directly with people in person. And when they do, they're triggered, different things come up because again, there's that lack of contact. So it's like I can see us all moving in that direction of what we know that we need. But still, when you do interact with people, you realize, oh, yeah, what they've said about like everybody needs a certain amount of physical touch every day, like a good 30-second hug can be
Yes.
so healing. It's
Unbelievable.
just amazing. I think you're really right about the technology and how it's been just pushing us away from each other
Well, it
more and more.
affords so many benefits. I love what you just said too. It affords so many benefits, but at the same time, with every benefit, there's always a cost that we got to look for too, and then
Yeah.
offset that. We need to offset that cost.
Yeah, we
So
do.
I'm so thankful we're able to do this today. This is the way for us to do this today.
Yeah.
But I don't want to be lulled to sleep in thinking that this will give me 100% of what I'm wired and
Oh,
made
yeah.
to enjoy, which is going to be that
Yeah.
hug and that connection. And I think the other thing too, if we aren't careful, is like you said, is uh our technology allows us, and I don't want to be too cynical, but just let me throw this out here,
Yeah.
is that I can perform, I can do it in person too, but I can perform digitally a little easier.
Mm-hmm.
But if we are going to have dinner, that's a longer performance. Conversation might come up. And what happens if we aren't careful, if we're not actually developing these social skills,
Yeah.
we are lacking growth in
Mm-hmm.
areas that we absolutely need, and they're
Mm-hmm.
essential, and for all of us,
Mm-hmm.
and again, when we're in person, we can still have performances, don't get me wrong, it happens all the time, but the more that we're put in a place to where we have to exercise development,
Yeah.
and we need, like, I need friendships to trigger things in me,
Yes.
and I need maturity to look at that and go, was that them? Because that'd be easy to say they did this.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what I just want to throw this out here for our audience, is to say, as I'm growing and maturing, I used to always point my finger. It's easy to blame and go, yeah, they did this, they did that. But I also learned that my response is my responsibility. And when there is some type of confrontation or disagreement, it is an
Mm-hmm.
invitation to go deeper in the
Mm-hmm.
relationship, but primarily for Royce to look and go, why is that affecting me?
Mm-hmm.
So intimacy requires more work, but it also makes us better human beings and equips
Mm-hmm.
us to live out our purposes, and be more effective with the people that we're sharing our
Yeah,
ideas.
I actually think it gets you closer to that alignment faster because you're actually, people come into your life to help you to notice things that are missing, to help you notice things that are off. And you will, if you want to up level your growth or get to that next place of awareness, put yourself around more people, teach, like go to classes,
Absolutely.
like interact, and you'll see
Yes.
that happen. Yeah.
It will. And it's a beautiful mosaic. Each and every one of us have something incredibly distinct in us. Let's just say it, from above, from
Mm-hmm.
the divine. You're on this earth to display that one thing. Why
Mm-hmm.
would you hide that?
Yeah.
Share it in every way you can, but I would say the maximized way in which that can be experienced and enjoyed is actually physically in the presence
Mm-hmm.
of those you're sharing. And again, not to say that you can't do this way. It's
Yeah.
just, I'm afraid that, like we talk about endangered species, human connection is in an endangered status right now,
Yeah.
because number one is this is more convenient. This is easy, even easier to perform in.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like you said, when I'm actually in someone's presence, I could get triggered and things come
Mm-hmm.
up, and I'd rather avoid that. But that's
Yeah.
the invitation for me to become the best possible version of who I'm
Oh
going to be.
yeah. Well, and I think all these things that have been developed, they're cool, they're entertaining, it's a great way to ignore whatever pain you might have going on in your life. So I know that when I really started to get further along in my journey was when I stopped watching television. So I don't hardly watch TV. If there are movies that I watch, they're ones that I've seen 1,000 times because I'm giving myself a break from reality for a minute. But when I stopped that intake and I started to control more of what I allowed into my brain, that's when I saw a whole new level of peace come into my life and a whole new level of realizing, oh, I didn't recognize how much on autopilot I was going. Just that's just from cutting out like not even that much TV, but being aware of what TV and movies and radio and music was putting into my head. Yeah.
That is fantastic. Well, and that is a beautiful illustration of you're combating how much you're going to allow those signals to come in, the
Mm-hmm.
messaging that comes in.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's really important too, is that we all, I think everyone would agree, is we are ultimately what we eat.
Mm-hmm.
And we get that from a very physiological standpoint, right? If you eat, leafy greens and good food,
Mm-hmm.
right, your body's going to reflect that. But that's all forms of consumption. What are my eyes eating and my ears?
Yeah. Yeah.
What am I consuming myself with? And it could be that some people, even listening to this, you could have an immediate breakthrough. I'm talking about like a next level elevation,
Yes.
just if you took inventory of where you're getting messaging that is
Yes.
contradictory to your trajectory and your identity and your purpose and your dreams.
100%.
And can I just really quick, I feel this so
Yes.
strong. There are some toxic relationships that I think someone's listening right now. You have a toxic relationship. You've been holding on to this, holding
Mm-hmm.
on to this. It's time to establish a boundary. And if the other person does not respond in a loving way to a healthy boundary, you need to move on,
Yeah.
because that is anchoring you in a place that is less than what you were meant for. You will
Mm-hmm.
find an enormous breakthrough in freedom. Yes, it will hurt because we're attached to sometimes toxic relationships, but
Mm-hmm.
we need to take inventory of every part of our life and ask the question, are these people in alignment with that wonder guide? Uh,
Mm-hmm.
saying that that's mine, whatever yours may be. What are you here for to offer and share with the world? Not every relationship that you might be prioritizing right now might be conducive to that. And it may
Mm-hmm.
be just enough to keep
Mm-hmm.
you imprisoned
Yeah.
from moving on in the
And it
river.
also, you're not doing that person any favors either. I've recognized that actually part of my job, I feel like, or maybe this is just part of my path and it's part of everyone's path, I've recognized, is to walk away from some people. Because the moment I've walked away from some people, they've gone to get help.
Yep.
All of a sudden have realized something, but it took me saying, no more, this doesn't work for me. And it's so heartbreaking because I definitely have a big heart and I have this desire for just to constantly bring people together, but I've recognized that sometimes the best thing you can do for someone and yourself is to say no more. And
Absolutely.
so when I realized that, when I realized how much it was benefiting other people, not just me, that's when I realized, okay, this is something I have to really do and get better at doing. It's never an easy thing, but you can do it in a way
Absolutely.
that's loving. Yeah.
I want to share. I heard this story. It's a little quick parable, and I shared it with someone in a coaching session yesterday. There was it's a parable. There was a holy man one day woke up and knew his purpose and his identity. He knew exactly how to go about bringing about the dream that had been placed in his life. So he or she kissed their family, kissed their kids, and said, I'm going to go on this journey to accomplish what I'm here to accomplish. And I will come and get my family and bring them to me in the days ahead. And on the way to that journey, this holy person is traveling just a few hours in, and they come upon an old bridge, and there's someone standing on the bridge. And as they get closer, they see that it's curious, and they're holding a rope. And as they get closer, it's a parable. I'll just say this again. As they get closer to the person holding the rope, they see that they're distraught and something's not right. And they greet them and say, hello, friend, how are you today? And the person doesn't say anything, but just throws them one end of the rope and says, hold this. And they jump over the bridge with the rope tied around them. To which the holy person wraps the rope around their hands and waist. And obviously the physics don't work on this, but they catch them. Just spoil my own parable. The physics don't work. See, that's the logic part of our brain. But a story part is that intuition, so we move in and the holy person wraps their arms around the rope. The person is suspended, hanging in midair, and the holy man says, "Friend, what are you doing? This is crazy. This is insanity. What are you doing?" And they're just hanging over the side of the bridge. To which the person hanging there says, "Life's been unfair. I'm so frustrated. No one understands." It's like, "Well, sir, what do you want me to do? Just hold me.
Gosh.
Just hold the rope." Now, you see the paradox that's been created in this little parable is that the holy woman can't get into her dreams because she's now been completely paralyzed by someone else casting their emotional responsibility, their emotional ownership, their reality ownership onto them. And they now have somehow decreed that the only way for me to exist in this world is for other people to prove their support of me. They need to prove that they're there for me, but they're not giving any empathetic thought as to how it's paralyzing the other person from being and doing all that they're meant for. And the only way this works is we all have to take ownership, spiritual, emotional, physical ownership of our place in this world. And we do support each other, but the darkness in this parable, as I heard it, it's a darker parable. As the argument in the conversation goes on and says, "Sir, I didn't ask for this. I have somewhere that I need to be, and I don't want to hurt you. So I'll hold this just a little bit longer, but I need you to climb up the rope so that we can get this situation resolved." To which a victim mentality on the other end of the rope says, "I don't want to climb. I've tried to climb. No one understands where I'm at. And you just hold on to me. And if you let go of me, my death is going to be on you." You see how complex and painful this gets. And I love this parable because I know it's dark and heavy there for a minute, but it conjures the emotion of situations I think a lot of us have either been in or maybe dealing with right now. That feeling of, I don't want to hurt them, right? That's hard. But just hear how this parable goes, to which the holy woman, she realizes, I've got to get here because the time is running short. I've got to move on into what I'm not meant just to hold the rope for someone else who doesn't want to do their part. She realizes that the time is short, to which she engages the conversation again and says, "Dear sir, I have held you as long as I can. But if you don't help me, I will brace myself. You do your part, I'll do mine, and we'll get you back to safety. But if you do not, I am not going to accept your decision to make me responsible for your choices." And the person hanging on the rope said, "You wouldn't do it. You wouldn't let me go. Just know that if you cut me loose, it's all going to be your fault." Which is very narcissistic, very incredibly narcissistic, emotional manipulation. And we are in versions of this all the time because there's an epidemic of not wanting to take responsibility for our own lives. Like it's too much for some people, and we have to make a decision. In the story, to land this parable, she says, "Sir, I'm sorry that you feel this way, but I refuse to take ownership of your choices. This is your choice, and I accept it because I have a destiny that I have to go to." And she cut the rope in the parable and moved on. That's an absolute tragedy. But the thing is that it is not her responsibility to be put in a situation like that to do any more than she is capable of doing to save a situation. And sometimes we have to cut the rope, as crude and harsh as it sounds, because it's, as you've said, it's actually good for the person hanging on the rope. Not that they physically are harmed. It's a parable. All parables break down eventually, but emotionally severing it. Maybe even physically connecting and just saying, "I'm not going to be your savior. I'm not."
Yeah. Well, I think it's also a great reminder of one of the things I would say to people when they come to my retreats is, you are so much more powerful than you realize. And reminding people of their power and acting and leading and teaching and guiding in an empowering manner helps them to realize that, I'm not here to save you. I can't save you, and I don't want to save you. it's not my job and I actually physically can't do it. You
Mhm.
are, you are so much more than you realize you are. And helping people recognize that, I think, is a big
Yes.
part of the work. Yeah.
It's fantastic work. And none of our identities, we don't do the saving, because there'll be no shortage of people who try to put us in a place because it's ingratiating to our ego, but none of us are equipped to be that kind of savior.
Hmm.
None of us. I can't. I mean, I've got myself to deal with. I'll help, right? You help as much as you can, but if
Hmm.
someone can't respond at some point, now let me just
Hmm.
make sure, because these kind of things always bring up exceptions. Yes, there may be a moment where you're helping someone who, in that specific moment,
Oh,
is
sure.
incapable of doing anything.
Yes. Yeah.
That's not a long-term viable way
Yeah.
of engaging that relationship.
Yeah.
15 years later, and they're in the exact same place they were when you met them, you're a prisoner now,
Yeah.
and not one that's helpful to you or the person.
Mm-mm.
It's not. So we have to
No.
really take inventory and say, um, is this holding me back from what I'm meant for?
Yeah.
And in
Yeah.
a
That is
sense,
such a
that was
great
me.
example.
Well, well, I would just say, in just quick addition to that,
Mhm.
I know that parable's heavy. It's crude, and I don't want to overly associate it with leaving the pastorate, because I'm still trying to help churches. I believe in community that
Mhm.
hungers to grow in
Mhm.
spiritual things together. I love that, but I had to cut the rope from what that had become in my own life, and I
Mhm.
saw that it was preventing me from moving forward in what I feel I'm supposed to do. And that's
Mhm.
with any transition into a new season. We're going into fall. If we have spring expectations in fall,
Mhm.
we just live in a constant state of depressed, disappointed frustration, because we're expecting the wrong thing out of the wrong season.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have to evolve into the season we're in.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit more about and because we've hinted at it a little bit, but I'm curious how you define intuition and
Yes,
listening to your heart, listening to a higher version of yourself.
absolutely. Uh, so the way that I would just kind of today, just unpack intuition is a combination. So we've talked a little bit about the brain stuff. I would say it's a combination of our right hemisphere, because the thing with intuition is that it's not lightning bolts, big
Yeah.
giant voices in the sky. It's not this external stimuli, although in rare occasions, we've all experienced unique things, but that is not common. But it's usually something interfacing with the mind. So I want to say the mind being healthy, and that meaning the soul, the spirit, the non-physical part of us, in and how it interfaces with our right brain, attaching, processing, but attaching to that higher mind. So for me, the way that I practice intuition is, I think Psalms 46:10 says this really well: be still and know that I
Mhm.
am God. Be still and know. I hear the most when I'm still and quiet.
Mhm.
And so I think we have to just still all of this energy, all this busyness, all this overthinking, and quiet ourselves. Now, can intuition come through other ways? Absolutely. And I think the
Mhm.
more that we nourish right brain reality, if I can just say it that way, well, then it'll
Yeah.
bleed into the conscious mind. It'll even better inform the conscious mind. The conscious mind and the intuitive mind will begin to work together as they should, which we
Mhm.
would call whole brain living,
Mhm.
whole brain living, to where we're meant to be intuitive creatures, to where everything's not about a math problem we solved.
Mhm.
Sometimes the answer comes from ways that we don't know how. We don't have a formula or an algorithm for it, but we just know intuitively this is what we should do.
Mhm.
Um, and again, I've talked all around it. I just feel that there's a part of like healthy mind,
Yeah.
but the way Jesus would say this is, he says, ask and it shall be given, seek and it will be found, knock and the door will be open. I think he is coaching us at this point to realize that all of reality responds to asking,
Mhm.
seeking, knocking.
Mhm.
Now, if we want to be petulant and immature, well, I asked and I didn't get what I wanted. Well, that's not an intuitive process that's very healthy. We can ask, seek, and knock, and then listen to what is being given
Mhm.
response to that. It may be different
Mhm.
than our expectations. So let's not worship or overly value how we think it's all supposed to play out. I
Yeah.
may ask, can I have, but then wait to see if the answer is different than what I actually am even asking for. To go back to my quote, it may be that my heart doesn't have the words to know how to ask what's in me, but the love and transcendence that's answers what my heart is really longing for. I can't tell you the times in my life that the answer is better than the thing I was asking for, but I
Mhm.
was initially disappointed because it didn't look like what I had set my heart and mind up to
Oh
receive.
yeah. Yeah. No, you're reminding me of a book called The Buddha and the Badass, by Vishon, I think his name is.
Mm-hmm.
And he talks about how he interviewed hundreds of entrepreneurs. And he said that one of the themes that came out was you don't need to know how you're going to do it. You just need to know what you want in life or in your business, and then leave the how up to the universe, basically.
Mm.
Um, and again, it's going back to that, what you've been talking about with the left brain, right brain. We always want to decide that we will figure out the how and that we'll know the best way. And then we're missing out on all the magic of not needing to know. Again, being okay with the uncertain. Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. And something that's really been hitting me lately is this concept. It's a Taoist concept of Wu Wei. And
Ooh,
some interpret this like no effort. And I think some of the thinkers that I've looked at on this is that
mm-hmm.
it's much more sublime than that. And a
Mm-hmm.
better translation is never force. That's
Mm-hmm.
different than no effort, right?
Yes.
To an American, hearing no effort is like, I don't know, beach, Mai Tais, margaritas,
Yeah.
sand
Yeah.
between your toes, kind of a chilling on vacation. It's missing that deeper spiritual revelation that's in this
Mm-hmm.
Wu Wei concept, and it's don't force.
Mm-hmm.
I think intuition is about, first and foremost, opening your life and reality to the truth or the possibility. Let's say, if you're not ready to call it truth, the possibility that you don't have to force your way
Yeah.
through life to
Yeah.
get what you are dreaming of. And that
Yeah.
means you're cooperating with a higher transcendent mind who
Mm-hmm.
desires to manifest the things that were actually placed in you by that transcendent mind. Right now, there's some assumptions in some places. If you're not thinking spiritually yet, I understand there's a lot of hurdles to jump over there, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying just at least consider the possibility that you and I
Mm-hmm.
are not orphaned human beings by a massive cosmic accident,
Mm-hmm.
and all we're left with is having to force our own way to be bigger and stronger than the next person so we can get those scarce resources from them, pull it out of their mouth if we have to. That's that that's that way of living that is instinctually too much fear-based and too
Mm-hmm.
survival-based. And all
Mm-hmm.
you're left with is force. Make it happen.
Yeah.
Take it from whoever you got to take it from. What if there is a fundamental reality shift? What if
Yeah.
reality is not based that way at all? Maybe our fear, our ape part of our brain, keeps making us think it's that way. But if we cooperated, if we aligned with a higher mind and began to value each other in a completely different way, like based on our actual value of each other, we really recognize that, Mo, you're infinitely valuable, amazing, and worthy of dignity and respect, worthy of my attention, worthy of all these different things, like from one human to another. Then suddenly another path opens altogether
Mm-hmm.
about reality. And here's my somewhat long-winded explanation, is that we could paddle the boat. That's the ape brain, the fear, right? We're going to just row. We're not
Yeah.
needing to be in tune with any other conditions. We just point the boat and we work. Okay. Or they're sailing. which humans have gotten around the world sailing for thousands of years, like a long time sailing. All right. So what is this with sailing? Sailing is still very effort driven. It's a lot of work. I've gone sailing with a couple of friends, and you're working constantly. Like, okay, tell me what. Oh my goodness, pull this jib. I don't even know much about it, but I'm just like, tell me what to do. And there's a lot of activity, but the propulsion is not in the boat. It's not the people on the boat. All of this busyness and activity is to align with this transcendent, even invisible wind that has so much power if you'll align with it. So if the wind's blowing a certain way, you adjust your sail to respond to the wind in that capacity. So this is the Wu Wei spirit, so to speak. And then I'll just land the way Jesus would say it, as he says in John 3, verse number 8. I love this verse. He says, you hear the wind, you hear it blowing, you don't know where it came from, and you have no idea where it's going. So is everyone who is born of the Spirit. Wow, man, that is such a cool. I don't need to know where it came from. I don't even fully know where it's going, but I want to be like the leaf in response. And that is the leaf doesn't force the wind. The leaf is at the mercy of the wind. And so here we've come full circle back to our river illustration.
Yeah.
Moving and growing into places to where it isn't about us forcing and asserting our security, but trusting that we can cooperate with a power so divine, so transcendent, so loving, has our best interest. And we can allow its power to move and shape and influence. And that may have a twist in the story.
Yeah.
It's the point initially, but oh man, I can't wait to see where it goes, because it's a much better story that way.
It's a beautiful, magical story that way. Hey, I'm popping in for a moment to let you know that if you're interested in working with me one-on-one in a small group, or you'd like to attend one of my upcoming retreats, please reach out or add yourself to my email list. You can go to iloveitwhen.org and scroll to the bottom where you'll see there's a spot to sign up. I also love to speak, teach, and create experiences for small, medium, or large-size companies. If you know someone that I should know, please connect us. I'm looking to utilize I Love It When to create global change, and that will require collaborating with all of you. You're all so much more powerful than you realize. Remind yourself of that today. Okay, well, we could continue talking for probably the whole day if we let ourselves, but I want to end today with the question we talked about before we started on the podcast was, what is something that you wish people knew about you, or what would you want people to know about you? And I wanted to make sure to give you a chance to answer, because I thought that was such a beautiful part of our conversation before we even started recording.
Well, I would just say, in all vulnerable honesty, it's the hardest question of all the questions. It's like, we can talk about intuition, we can talk about the spirit world, we can talk about changing my career from 30 plus years to launching an endeavor in a whole new way. And all that, it just comes really easy. What do I wish people knew more about me? My initial thought with that is probably overthinking and then going blank, because I would just tell people what I want them to know about me is that I'm still overcoming verbal, emotional, and sexual abuses from my childhood that instilled a lie of worthlessness. And so when I'm given an amazing opportunity with my good friend Mo on her awesome podcast, I go blank. My initial thing in looking at this question is I go blank. Like, what do I want people to know about me? I'm still healing and I'm still growing in that way. And maybe you're out there and you kind of feel the same way too, is that we don't have to con our way through life. We don't have to feign confidence. But as I've thought about this too, what do I want you to know? I want you to know I'm still growing. I'm still overcoming a lie of worthlessness in myself. That's because that question triggers that. It's like, what do you want people to know about you? It's almost like there's this lie back there that's like, oh, nobody needs to know or want to know anything. And that's coming from that echo of me not having value. But while I'm telling you I'm still dealing with that, I'm going to overcome it and also say what I would love for people to know more about me. I wish more people knew about me is I love helping people grow. That's the wonder guide in me.
Mhm.
I want to lead people quite literally. I want to do some things on some trips that lead people to places that make them go, but I want to lead them in conversations or to new ways of thinking. I get the most unbelievable thrill in me by seeing someone's eyes get big, their mouth drop, or for them to go, oh my goodness, that just hit a place. And they're able to take that into new places of growth. I would summarize it this way. My oldest daughter is getting married this weekend in a little micro
Wow.
ceremony out in the mountains. I'm so pumped, so excited. When we were scouting locations, we were near Mount Rainier. And we were there and we were filming this valley and just taking it all in. And I noticed a large group of women coming up to the spot where we were. We had come down from one direction and they were coming up from the other. And as one of the party members in this large group of women came and looked over the edge, and I'm going to do my best to illustrate it. She goes,
Oh,
she starts shaking. And I look over and I tell my daughter, I'm like, look. And she's like, and it went on for like 30 seconds, 40 seconds. That's a long time. She's like,
yeah.
she's like starting to cry. I
Yeah.
instantly start bawling. I'm have to like hide. It makes me cry because she was having a moment. It's like, if it would have been appropriate for me to film that and get her consent and her permission, it's like, this is what I live. For people to just step into that place. She was having an absolute full-on wonder episode.
Yeah.
Looking at the grandeur of the outdoors, and it like I could not hold back my own tears and saying,
Wow.
I live for that. I live for that moment to help people experience that in whatever way we can, whether it be a physical thing that we do and see, or conversations and coaching, or my teaching.
Yeah.
Whatever I can do to help people, I long for that.
I love that. So I'm going to make sure to put your website in the show notes so people can go check you out if they're interested in having you speak or working with you one-on-one or working with a group of people. I'm really excited for people to get to know you more and just to see you out and about more in the community and all over the place, all over the world.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So, okay, very last question I have for you is, what's your current I love it when for the world today?
Well, I know I just kind of said it. I love it.
You kind of did say it.
Well, I should have just added it there because I love it when people are in awe.
Yeah.
I love it when people, if I can, I love it when people for that moment realize I don't have to be the center of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
I love it when people realize that I don't have to have it all together.
Mm-hmm.
I love it when people realize that I don't have to be in control right now.
Yeah.
My definition of wonder is awe tinged with a little bit of fear because it's big,
Yeah.
it's risky, and it's worth my undivided attention, and it's worth my leaping in trust into it when the time is right. I love it when people return to wonder.
Oh, I love that so much. Thank you. Thank you so much for being brave and for sharing everything that you did today. I know it's going to touch a lot of people, and I'm excited to be a part of your journey and continue to watch it unfold.
Thank you so much, Mo. You're amazing.